Hello everyone, I'm Sir Jess and welcome back again to this video. And we're here to have another kind of differentiation rule, but this time it's the inverse trigonometric functions. If you're not yet familiar or you do not master yet the differentiation rules, for instance, yung ating basic rules, basic differentiation rules, the trigonometric functions, exponential functions, logarithmic and the natural logarithmic functions, well, pwede nyo pong balikan po yung ating mga videos, no? Hanapin nyo lang yung ating previous videos about doon and para ma-master nyo po yon. Kasi mahirap po mag-proceed nang hindi nyo po master yung ating pong mga rules na yon. And afterwards, since or pagkatapos nyong ma-master yon, then pwede naman ninyong balikan ito. Pero kung master nyo na yon and ready na kayo, so let's go. So we have here the derivative of arc sine x. Okay, when we say arc sine x, that means inverse yung ating pong ibig sabihin nito, no? Pag sabing arc, that is inverse of sine x, no? Baka lang makalimutan ninyo. Okay? Now, arc sine or arc sine, ito po yung ating pong symbol, is the inverse of the sine function. Arc sine x is written as, pwede po ito, sine raised to negative 1x. Pero hindi po yan binabasa as sine raised to negative 1x, kundi binabasa yan as arc sine x. Again, hindi po yan sine raised to negative 1. Okay? That means, pag binasa ito, dapat po, pagbasa nyo po dito ay arc sine x. Okay? Now, the derivative of arc sine x is equal to 1 over the square root of 1 over x squared. Alright? Yan ay kung x lang yung pinag-uusapan natin. Hindi pa siya differentiable. Pero kung differentiable yan yung ating x, then we have this formula. We have the derivative of arc sine u is equivalent to 1 over square root of 1 minus u squared times the derivative of u. Or we can write this as the derivative of arc sine u is equal to du over square root of 1 minus u squared. Yan. So, mahilig kasi ako mag-shortcut. And para na rin sa inyo, dahil mahirap pong magsaulo po ng formula. Lalo na napakarami pong formula. Kaya ang tip ko sa inyo, kailangan i-familiarize nyo siya, practice. And syempre, mas maigi ding ma-memorize nyo din yung ating formula. Okay? Pero okay mag-alala sa patuloy nyo or palaging pag-practice, masaulo nyo yan yung formula na yan. Alright? So, let's have another derivative. So this time, hindi muna akong bibigay po ng ating pong mga example, no? So lahat po ng ating derivative or mga formula, ilagay ko muna dito bago tayo sa ating mga example. Kasi yung sa module natin, hindi naman isa-isang binigay, no? So, based lang sa module tayo. Alright? Okay, this time, let's have the derivative of arc cosine x. So again, arc cosine or arc cos, no? Pero arc cosine pa rin ang pagbasa niyan. Kapag binasa niyo na arc cos, talagang may lintikan kayo sa inyong mga professor. Is the inverse of the cosine function. Arc cosine x is written as arc cosine x or cosine raised to negative 1x. Okay? So again, hindi po ito binabasa na cosine raised to negative 1x. Binasa ko lang para lang ano ninyo na parang ganun yung itsura. Pero pag binasa to, you have to read this as arc cosine x. It says here that if we have the derivative of arc cosine x, we will have negative 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared. As you can see here, parehas lang siya ng ating arc sine x. Ang kaibahan lang ay yung kanyang sign. Alright? Kasi nga, di ba yung sa ating pong sine, kapag ang derivative ng ating sine ay, ang derivative ng ating sine x ay positive cosine x. Then, ang derivative naman ng ating cosine x ay negative sine x. So, ipagpalagay nyo lang na gano'n para hindi kayo malito. If u is differentiable function of x, then the derivative of arc cosine u is equal to negative 1 over square root of 1 minus u squared times the derivative of u. Or we could rewrite this as the derivative of arc cosine u is equivalent to negative du over square root of 1 minus u squared. Alright? So let's have the third derivative. Another derivative, so we have the derivative of arc tangent x. So arc tangent or arc tan, pero again, hindi yan binabasa as arc tan. Yan po ay symbol. Pag binasa natin yan, that is arc tangent, is the inverse of the tangent function. So arc tangent x is written as tan raised to negative 1 x. Pero again, binabasa natin yan as arc tangent x. So the derivative of arc tangent x is equal to 1 over 1 plus x squared. If u is a differentiable function of x, then the derivative of arc tangent u is equal to 1 over 1 plus u squared times the derivative of u. Or we could rewrite this as the derivative of arc tangent u is equal to du over 1 plus u squared. Alright? So again, yung ating pong arc sine u, ang derivative nun ay du over square root of 1 minus u squared. Ang derivative naman ng ating arc cosine ay negative du over square root of 1 minus u squared. Walang pinagbago yung ating pong value maliban sa sine. Okay? Dito naman sa tangent, we have arc tangent u is equal to the du over 1 plus u squared. Okay? Lagay lang natin dito. Let's have another derivative. Alright, another derivative. So this time we have arc cosecant x. So arc cosecant or arc CSC is the inverse of the cosecant function. Arc cosecant x is written as CSC raised to negative 1x. Pero again, pag binasa po natin to, that will be arc cosecant x. Hindi po yan CSC. Ito rin po, pag binasa natin to, that is arc cosecant. Yan ay ano lang, reminder lang. Baka matamaan tayo ng ating professor. Okay. So the derivative of cosecant or arc cosecant x is equal to negative 1 over absolute value of x square root of times the square root of x squared minus 1, where x should be greater than 1. Okay? Ibig sabihin nun, hindi pwedeng mag less than or mag-equal sa 1 ang ating pong x. Bakit? Kasi syempre, kung ito po ay 1, so mag 1 squared minus 1, that will become 0. And square root of 0 is 0. And automatic po, magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag nating undefined value. Okay? And kapag naman nagkaroon tayo ng ito kapag x equals 0, kapag naman x is less than 0, or x is less than 1, let's say negative 1, no? So automatic magkakaroon tayo ng imaginary number. Okay? At alam naman po natin, tayo po ay under real number lang po dapat ng ating value. Kasi kung hindi po under or element ng real number, automatic po, pwede po yang, hindi na po yan, magiging undefined na po yung value natin, magiging imaginary number, o kaya naman maging indeterminate. So, yun yung kadalasan po nating iniiwasan. Alright? So, if u is a differentiable function of x, then the derivative of arc cosecant u is equal to negative 1 over absolute value of u, square root of u squared minus 1. Okay, dapat ito po ay nasa baba, hindi nasa taas. Okay, times the derivative of our u. Or we could rewrite this as the derivative of arc cosecant u is equal to negative du over absolute value of u times the square root of u squared minus 1. Alright? Okay, let's have the other derivative. Now let's have the derivative of arc secant x. So alright, so this is arc secant, hindi arc cosecant. Okay, wait. Now let's have the derivative of arc secant x. So arc secant or arc secant or arc sec is the inverse of the cosecant function. Arc secant x is written as sec raised to negative 1 x. Again, hindi po ito binabasa ng ganon. Ito po ay binabasa as arc secant x. Now, the derivative of arc secant x is equal to 1 over the absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1, where x is greater than 1. Okay, so parang mali po itong part na to. So, dapat ito ay negative. Alright, so ang ating formula ay mali. So, dapat ito po ay positive, 1. Hindi po negative. Pati rin po ito. Ang negative lang po ay dun po sa ating cosecant. Alright? Again, pag secant po ang ating pong, or arc secant po ang ating pong hinahanap, positive po ang ating pong value. No? Okay. So, again, so let's have the derivative of secant. Arc secant x is equal to 1 over the absolute value of square root of x squared minus 1, where x is greater than 1. So, nabanggit ko na yan kanina kung bakit hindi pwedeng maging 1. If u is a differentiable function of x, then the derivative of arc sine u is arc secant u, is equal to 1 over the absolute value of u times the square root of u squared minus 1 times the derivative of u. Or we could rewrite this as derivative of secant or arc secant u is equal to du over the absolute value of u times u squared minus 1. Alright? So, lipat natin dito. Kung mapapansin ninyo, parehas lang yung kanila pong formula nitong ating pong cosecant. Okay? Yun nga lang, ang cosecant po ay negative, ang secant naman ay positive. Alright? Let's have the last arc function. We have arc cotangent x. Arc cotangent x or arc cot is the inverse of the tangent function. Arc cotangent x is written as cot raised to negative 1 x. Again, pag binasa natin to, ito ay arc cotangent x. So the derivative of arc cotangent x is equal to negative 1 over 1 plus x squared. If u is a differentiable function of x, then the derivative of cotangent or arc cotangent u is equal to negative 1 over 1 plus u squared times the derivative of u. Okay? Or we can rewrite this as the derivative of arc cotangent u is equal to negative 1 over 1 plus u squared du. Alright, so kompleto na ang ating pong mga arc functions. So, balikan natin ulit. Ang derivative ng arc sine u is equal to the derivative of u or du over square root of 1 minus u squared. Same lang sila ng cosine or arc cosine. Ang kaibahan lang ay yung sine, which is negative du over square root of 1 minus u squared. Arc tangent u naman, derivative nito ay du over 1 plus u squared. Same lang sila nitong derivative ng arc cotangent u, yun nga lang, negative lang itong isa. Yung arc cotangent u is negative 1 over, or we could actually say negative du na lang para diretso. So we have, we have negative du over 1 plus u squared. Then let's have the arc cosecant u. So the derivative of that is negative du over the absolute value of u times the square root of u squared minus 1. And for the arc secant u naman, we have du over the absolute value of u times the square root of u squared minus 1. Magkakapareha lang po sila. Yun nga lang, ang arc cosecant ay negative, ang secant naman po ay positive. Okay, so sana po ma-familiarize natin ang ating po mga sarili sa mga formula na to. Kasi ito po yung gagamitin natin mamaya sa ating po examples.